everybody, and welcome to the Barcoding Huddle. I'm your host, Jody Costa. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Barcoding Incorporated. Barcoding is a company that helps organizations be more efficient, accurate, and connected. We focus on supply chain automation and innovation and are super excited to be here today to talk to you about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, automation, and specifically in the automation space, autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs. So this is going to be a great conversation. You're not going to want to miss it. I see Des is already excited, so he's already on camera. Rick, do you want to join me as well? Pop on up. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. We are here today with our partner Zebra Technologies. Zebra, if you aren't familiar, is a global company whose products are providing innovative solutions in more than 100 countries all over the world. Zebra is the leading brand in barcode printers, scanners, RFID technology, handheld computers, many, many more. They are our number one partner, and super excited to be able to talk to them today via Rick Driscoll about their acquisition and their growing line of AMRs through Fetch Robotics. Fetch Robotics is the pioneer of on-demand automation. Fetch's autonomous mobile robots, those AMRs, are used for optimized each picking in fulfillment centers, optimized case picking in distribution centers, just-in-time material delivery in manufacturing facilities, and automating manual material movement in really any facility, which is, I think, the really exciting part. So if that got you ready to go, then you're with me on this journey for this barcoding huddle, and let's talk some AMRs. So thanks for joining, Rick. Thanks for joining Des. I think just to get us going, introductions are probably in order. You've heard from me, but let's hear from you guys. So Des, why don't you kick us off with a short intro?
Sure. This is Des Smith. I'm a automation engineer in the IoT team here at Barcoding, and we're very excited to be discussing autonomous mobile robots, AMRs, and the value they provide. Rick?
Hey, thanks, Des. Appreciate that. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rick Driscoll. And I bring about 17 years in channel experience and about 15 years in supply chain. I joined Fetch Robotics July 28th last year, and now Zebra is driving the show. So very excited to be here and talk about AMRs and how we can help you all out there.
Yay, AMRs. Everybody at Barcoding knows that I'm pretty keen on the robotic space, and I think that's because I see such the potential for our customers, but also for the employees who work at our customers. And I think that's one of the key reasons that we're gonna start talking about AMRs and why the automation space has kind of grown in size and scale. No surprise to anybody that we'll be starting our conversation around labor challenges specifically, and these chronic shortages that are being coupled with the surge in demand that many of our customers are facing, manufacturing facilities, but also an increase in demand for warehousing and fulfillment, with at the same time less and less people wanting to do these jobs, right? So can AMRs provide that productivity? Can they make it actually more appealing and help those employees? I think it's what we're going to find out today. But I want to step into this, Rick, with just elaborate a little bit more on these current events that are really starting to come to a head and make the AMR space something that's a must-have or a must-look at for companies today.
Yeah, absolutely, Jody. So, after having worked in the warehouse operations space for many years, labor is certainly one of the key factors and one of the key needs out there today. There are many operations folks out there who have all these SLAs to make these shipments. Yeah. And they have these folks calling in sick, for example, or they have these folks who just don't get it, and they're having difficulty staffing those positions. And I know that Des Smith also has been out there in the field talking to folks. So Des, maybe can you share a little bit about what your experience is in the labor pool when you're out there speaking to customers?
Thank you, Rick. Basically, everyone I speak with says, I can't get all the workers I want. In addition to that, the workers I get have a significantly higher turnover annually than I ever had before, this generation of workers. So I need a system that will allow my workers to use their brains, their hands, and let the AMR do what it's designed to do, which is to transport items from one spot to the other. And AMRs do that really well. And they typically work in your existing facility with very little in the way of accommodations. So it can move items. Think about the amount of time workers spend walking around, dropping off a report, picking up something, dropping off something. Many distribution centers, they find workers are spending almost half of their time, sometimes more, walking, pushing a cart. Let the AMR do it. It can do it very easily in your facilities. Again, we got to look at the weight and size of product, the width of your aisles, and all sorts of other things. But it comes down to, you're not going to get rid of workers. You're simply going to allow the workers you have to do more and spend less time walking around. And we'll get to this later on, but the return on investment, which is what I see most firms focusing in on, we can get return on investments many times less than 2 years, many times less than 1 year. That's right. Where it just goes in, goes fast. And with the quick deployment strategy that Fetch has, or Zebra now, we can deploy the system and be in production in a matter of 3 days.
I love it. So I love it. The excitement that you have for this space is so great. And I think just to revisit this, so not only are we seeing kind of demand continuing to increase, customers like us, the end user customers, continuing to see the need for speed, right? We want things faster. We want more choice. And then everyone you talk to, Des, doesn't have enough people. It doesn't have all the people that they want. It seems like the perfect storm for automation. Now, automation has been around for a long time. So, Rick, like what's the difference, or how do AMRs in particular fit into this wider robotics or automation conversation?
Very good question, and that's why I joined robotics, because I was so excited when I was on a Lunch and Learn last year when there were robots, actually moving on the floor and picking up things and moving things and taking things from one place to another. And what I learned is that these AMRs our AMRs can be up and running in a matter of 3 days.
Wow.
There is no major IT investment whatsoever. And people can actually reallocate their staff. So for someone who may be moving dunnage or maybe in cardboard or something of that nature, we can come in and we say, we have a better idea. We have a way to reduce your operating costs and have a really nice ROI platform for you with our technology.
So unlike maybe what people picture in their minds, and they hear robotics, they think something like very big and very expensive, and maybe with like arms and legs and dancing.
Right.
You're telling me that the AMRs are something that can really fit for a lot of different types of companies in this very more it's not a simple workflow, but it is simple in the sense that we're looking where the biggest waste is in a facility, walking to Des's point, and we're saying, why can't we automate that, right?
Absolutely. And when you take a look at it, it's all about cost, it's all about ROI, it's all about customer satisfaction. So we can take our AMRs, and through that process and through that discovery, Jody, we can help customers reduce their operating costs by leveraging our technology, for example, with a roller top as one of our products, so that the customer doesn't have to go out and spend millions of dollars in conveyor systems. They can leverage our technology. So it's a very powerful message to management.
So some people might say AMRs, maybe tell me, Des, a little bit, maybe break it down for me, make it real simple. Because I've also heard the term AGV, and I've heard robots and all these things. What really makes an AMR an AMR?
That's a great question, Jody. So basically, for perhaps 20 years or more, there have been AGVs, autonomous guided vehicles. These devices follow a buried copper wire cut into the concrete. It follows a laser beam. It follows magnetic pads throughout your facility, and it takes a route through your building. They're very simple. They will go from spot A to B to C to D, E, F, G, whatever, in a path. If you can allocate space for them, and if you can keep people and carts and fork trucks out of that space, if you have enough space, that's where that technology shines. However, that's not the real world for most businesses. They have crowded facilities. They have more products than they ever had before, more SKUs, more orders. They're not shipping out by the pallet, they're shipping out by the case or
Yeah.
eaches. So space is at a premium. Where AMRs are different from AGVs is AMRs know where they are and they know where they have to go. And it will figure out the best way to get there based on configurable parameters that we help our customers set up, including, I want, if possible, go down this wider aisle, or maybe make the wide path around to avoid people and fork trucks, or at this intersection, slow down and look everywhere and then proceed. It's not for them, it's really for people to see, hey, there's an AMR waiting to cross this area. The other big thing about AMRs is if the path is blocked, this is the reality. It could be a box, it could be a parked fork truck, it could be a pallet stuck in the middle of the way, it could be a couple people standing side by side arguing about which football team is the best. It could be any number of reasons, but in the real world, paths don't always stay open. With AMRs and the sensors, if a preferred path is blocked for one reason or another, it will turn around and find another way to the target. It works in the, basically AMRs are designed to work in real world manufacturing centers and distribution centers. And from the Zebra side, the AMRs are designed to work around people. So this is big. You don't need to be fearful. If you go to a user of the Zebra AMRs, you'll see is that the people are very comfortable working around them. They don't hit people. They don't run into things. They have sensors that will stop when something encroaches into a safety zone. If they can, if someone's blocking the aisle partially, it will figure out a way to go around it and continue its path. So you'll also find that people like them. And I know, Rick, you brought up all sorts of reasons about labor, and that is the number one driver for AMR purchases. But I'll tell you, today's workforce wants to come to work and have fun.
Yes.
And if you can, in your work environment, allow people to spend less time walking around, drop stuff on these AMRs and let the AMR do the movement, it's actually more fun for them. It's something they brag about when they go home and visit with friendly family and friends. And if you can retain your workers longer than you originally talked about, this is great. I just met with a 3PL the other day, and they claimed in their distribution centers, they're facing 100%, some over 100% annual employee turnover in their distribution centers. And so it's got to be a system that's easy to deploy.
Yes.
It's easy to work with. It has to, of course, be safe, and it's got to save money. And with Zebra, it's got to be fun to work with.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And so you're teeing me up for a little video here. Can you all see my screen?
We can.
So here you have an illustration of a Fetch 100 base unit. On the left-hand side, you can see what the computer sees, and on the right-hand side, you can see what's happening. And all that is driven by the LiDAR sensors that we have in our technology, which Des said will allow it to definitely stop in front of an object instead of hit that object. There's also a downward 3D camera and an upward 3D camera, which actually takes pictures of what's in front of it and to the side of it. So it's a very powerful technology today that's proven and safety driven by Melanie Wise, who sits on the RECIA committee to ensure that all of our AMRs are totally safe. And I'd just like to share one more video, if I could, with the audience to illustrate around people. As Des said, you've got an AMR, autonomous mobile robot, works in the cloud, up and running in a couple of days, that actually is going down an aisle, and you've got a warehouse worker who walks in front of that aisle. You can see that the AMR stops on a dime because it's designed to stop on a dime, and it's very safe. And finally, Des, I want to share one more video of what it looks like. Here you have a warehouse worker who grabs a tablet, hits a couple of keystrokes, and what you'll see, everyone, is a Freight 100 base unit come up underneath the cart. This is called the Cart Connect 100 solution with a dunnage cart on it, which picks up the dunnage because it has a pre-designed workflow and brings it to the shipping dock. While one leaves, another one comes in. It's almost like an airport where a plane is leaving and another one's coming in. It's very exciting in these environments. And so for the people who are doing this today with either pallet jacks or perhaps any kind of another device, customers leverage the ROI with an AMR from Fetch.
And
Thank
so
you
if I,
so much for sharing those. Rick, or Des, I'll let you jump in.
well, if I could throw in also that what you saw there was a user requested movement where a user on a tablet said, I'm here, take this to there, and put the tablet away, and it adds to the work queue, and the AMR will come over, the most optimal, closest AMR will do the pickup and delivery. That's a human requested movement. AMR movements also can be scheduled. So you can say every half hour, pick up and drop off. And maybe at 5 p.m., maybe it's once an hour. You can do this around the clock. You can also integrate this, and this is key, easily integrate this with your warehouse management system, your warehouse execution system, whatever you have, or your automation equipment, your warehouse execution system. It's easy to integrate, it's fast. Although most clients start with a non-integrated system, integration is commonly a phase 2 or phase 3 to make it happen. So it's easy, fast to deploy, and we can be tailored to your specific needs, whether you want scheduled, human-directed pickup and movements, or whether it's after I scan this barcode in my WMS, have it come over and pick up and do the movement autonomously.
Wow. So if I'm, our customers, barcoding customers will be watching this. Maybe I'm, the CIO or the COO or I'm a director level, and I see something like this. What am I looking for in order to get started? Like, should I, where I obviously hear you on the labor, but kind of more specifically, if I want to really hone in on a good starting point, how do I figure that out?
Sure, I can take that one, Des. So what I've learned is that you want to make sure when you walk into a facility, any kind of a warehouse operation, what are the people doing? Are they moving? Are they sitting down? Are they standing up? What exactly are they doing, and why are they doing it? And that gives you a good indication of this, if there's any automation in that business. That's one area, of course. And you also want to see what's going on with that company. Are they growing? Have they picked up some new products, for example? Are they having some labor challenges internally? And these are things that management is always thinking about and trying to figure out, how can we make these SLAs and make things work? And so with that, we want to make sure we're aware of what's going on inside the four walls.
Absolutely. And if you were to talk to an operations or optimization person, that's their job typically, is to say, how can I get more done with the people I have? Do I put in a conveyor, which could, as Rick brought up, could be $1 million or more for some sites? Do I put in an AGV? Do I have enough space for an AGV to operate? Does that make sense? Right. Or maybe an AMR is easier and faster to deploy and more flexible. And also understand the real benefit of an AMR is you can put it in for one use case. I want to pick up cardboard dunnage and move it to the recycle area. And in a week, change your mind. In addition to that, I also want to move this stack of labels or printed documents or tools or stuff that needs to go out in a quick expedite order. And I want to move it from here to there. And quite frankly, the most fun I've had is visiting with a customer who says, hey, I had these 3 use cases. This is the reason why I got it. And it's fantastic. But as people have seen these AMRs move stuff around my facility, they come over and tap me on the shoulder and say, if it's doing this, 3 times a day, I have to do this and walk across the building. Why can't it do that? And we say, well, that's great. We'll add that to the use case. It's not uncommon after a year, instead of having those 3 initial use cases for the AMR, each use case is a specific movement, the client can have 10, 12, 15. So it's fun to see how customers interact with the AMR, observe what they do, and when after a few days, everyone gets very comfortable and safe. They don't jump out of the way. The AMR will stop until it is certain it's safe, and then it will proceed. And the whole idea is, hey, I don't have to put in my 10,000, 20,000 steps every day at work. It doesn't eliminate all travel necessarily, but if you can take a worker who with a fully burdened wage rate is maybe $25 to $40 an hour, and instead put in a device, depends whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 shift and use it over the weekend, but with a device that may cost $5, $10 an hour. basically these AMRs we're talking about here, if I can just jump to it, is AMRs don't punch in and punch out after 8 or 10 hours. These things are designed, even with battery charging, to work about 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 years.
That's exactly right. Let me just share my screen again because I'm a storyteller. So here we go.
Well, while you're doing that, Rick, so Des, there's a book called The Technology Fallacy, and it's all about how, people really at the heart of digital transformation and technology. And the great story in there is around duct tape and how nobody uses duct tape for its original purpose, right? So that stuck with me so much, and I think the AMRs is a great example of, you're going to sketch out that first use case and the ROI, and then as soon as you see it, folks are going to have ideas of how to keep using that type of technology to keep improving. So very cool. All right,
Great.
Rick.
So can you see my screen deploy in hours?
We can.
So this is a great story to tell because I was visiting a customer site and I wanted to see what it was like for the unveiling of the AMR in the warehouse operation. So we opened the crate, opened it up, and what we saw was a tether and a joystick, and the AMR was already charged up, which was nice. We were able to connect to the Wi-Fi in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. And by the way, the CEO was there, the CFO was there. There was an executive vice president with a drone who's taking videos of this because he was very excited. So there's a lot of energy going on. I took some videos as well just to witness this unveiling of the AMRs. We went ahead and mapped the facility rather quickly with a really cool workflow and went back into their boardroom and did another workflow with one of our specialists from Fetch Robotics, Rohan. And within a couple of hours, we were able to have this AMR deployed and moving around this small area in the warehouse where it was actually picking up a cart. This is a Cart Connect 100 solution. As we saw with the dunnage, it would just pick up a cart and move it from one place to another. We set up a workflow so it could go over and charge itself. Meanwhile, everyone is enthralled and looking at this technology and loving it. So it's really neat when you get people excited about the technology, and it's even better when you can share the ROI with this technology as well.
A typical Cart Connect, if I could add to that, Rick, is commonly 2 or 3 or 5 AMRs with maybe 10, 20, 50 carts. And it's a game of moving carts and dropping carts and moving the next cart and dropping a cart. So think about all of the stuff you're moving in your facilities. Right. Spare parts, emergency tools to get a line fixed, a roll of labels, spare batteries for a mobile computer. Anything that has to be moved from one spot to another that's within the weight and size limits of the product, which probably for many clients is 95% of what needs to be moved, these things will do. And something else I want to add to what Rick said is you can map your facility, even a 1 million square foot distribution center, in less than a day. It basically, with a joystick, you as the installer, we will do it for you, of course, but you will go up and down the aisles, and using its own LiDAR and 2 cameras, it will build its own map of your building. You don't have to download a CAD diagram, but the only thing you have to do after it builds the map is you have to drop in where you want to pick up and drop off products on that map. Now, you can literally in one building set up thousands of unique locations, and you can call them within the Fetch product called FetchCore, any name you want that makes sense to you. And that's to set up a new location or to change a location over a couple of feet, it's 10 seconds, really fast. One thing I did not bring up before is that with AGVs, it will follow a path. So you set up a path that'll wind through your building. And if you need to get a product from A to B, then to C, D, E, F, G, whatever, it will do that in a series or sequence. Another difference of AMRs is you can move any product that fits within the weight and size limits of the product from any location to any location dynamically. You can go, if you will, from A to Z directly. You don't have to follow the path. The more dynamic, the more your facility changes, the more you change your mind. That's where AMRs particularly shine. And as I've met with other people, they say, well, conveyor's a great thing, but I asked the client, well, do you really know what you're going to need to move 10 years from now?
Mhm.
Right. I think we
Many-
all learned that lesson pretty good over the last 2 years.
Exactly. The world has changed, and many businesses know what they're doing today and for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but they are not certain what sort of material movements they will need even a year from now. So unless you absolutely know without change, a conveyor locks you down. Matter of fact, if I could switch over to one of the more prominent users of these AMRs, Waytech Wire up in the Twin Cities, they were able to go in, they realized the conveyors took up a significant portion of the building, besides being noisy, but they only could handle a certain path, and it really topped out with a certain number of orders per day. That's all it could do. And they said, we're going to have to go to a bigger building,
Right.
because we cannot handle more orders. COVID, their business grew basically. They needed to handle more volume. And so what they did is they, with Zebra, ripped out the conveyor, put in the Fetch Zebra AMRs. They got back, I think it was like 10, 12% of the warehouse or whatever it was that was tied to the conveyor, just ripped them out. So now they have more space, and they have more flexibility and more the ability to handle significantly more orders. And they can move, again, any product within the weight and size limitation to any other spot in the facility. So they take products from receiving, in some cases, to a carousel system, to put away in the warehouse or wherever they want to go. And they move stuff around, and they change their mind, and they say, you know what, I really, instead of it depositing here 5 feet over, and that little change of dragging a location, moving over 5 feet is, again, 10 seconds. The ability to ad hoc make changes all the time to handle changes that your management may be asking of you is one of the great strengths of the Zebra AMRs.
That is awesome. I mean, I think that anybody would appreciate that level of flexibility. I don't think there's anyone that would want to get locked in if they didn't have to be locked in to a solution that could kind of grow and scale with them. So really great points there, Des. But I think, being sometimes the skeptic, right? This all sounds great for leadership, right? I think you guys have made strong cases for eliminating some of that unproductive wasted time and steps and all that stuff. And you're telling me this, the CEO is there, and there's, kind of music playing and drone footage, cameras and PR stunts, right? But what about the actual people? Like, are you telling me they really are this excited from day one, or do companies need to kind of bring them along? And are there some strategies there to kind of make sure that everybody totally understands that this is going to be a helpful thing?
That's a great question, Jody. I'm going to jump in here for a minute, Des, because I just read something recently about when there are companies out there who have these labor shortages, it's more attractive for them to offer new technology when they're offering a position to someone in a warehouse operation. We have robotics, we have AMRs, we have technology. That's going to draw people to want to work for that company, which is huge. I also know that when you've got someone who may be moving dunnage or something from one point to another, that individual can now be generating revenue and bringing in either product and shipping product or perhaps inbounding product to more build the business and just move trash around. So why would you ever have someone move trash around when you've got a labor shortage, when you can leverage the technology with a strong ROI with the Fetch robotic solution? It just doesn't make sense to me, but it makes perfect sense to go in and talk about the fact that we have a way for you to redeploy your staff. And that seems to be a huge message in management. We want to redeploy our staff, give them a little pride, give them another position, and have them learn the company process better, and to actually build the business and bring in the revenue. That's what I'm talking about to people today, and they're loving it.
And I could add, exactly, Rick, I agree, is that workers, how do workers adapt to working with AMRs? Basically, what I've seen some customers do is take the AMR before going live, they push it into the lunchroom and just let it sit there and let people, if you want, name the AMR, create a name for it. Then when the go live happens, they'll see that the AMR shines a blue light forward and really toward the ground, so you can see it in advance as it's coming. Plus, you can set it so that it goes beep, beep, beep. You know, any tone, there's a number of tones and volumes you can set so people are aware it's coming. And very quickly, you will find workers, you know, they'll initially want to stand back and jump or whatever, but then they realize it doesn't hit anybody. It doesn't hit boxes. It's looking even for a chunk of a pallet in the aisleway that it might clog the wheel, so it'll go around it. There's even been cases that once they get more and more comfortable with it, people will deliberately walk in front of it. We don't recommend it, but the AMR will sense it and stop. It knows its path, its direction of moving product is the least important thing happening. So if there is a rolling cart, a fork truck, people standing or walking in the way, it will stop. Matter of fact, what I found interesting when I first joined this market is the Zebra AMRs, because of their use of LiDAR, and with one camera facing forward, another one facing almost at a 45-degree angle to the ground, it's constantly looking. And the detail on this technology is phenomenal. So if in a magic moment where a fork truck's going down an aisle and someone is walking at that perfect, where there could be a collision, the AMR sensors will see the forks, you know, half inch off the ground, and that's enough to trigger it to have it come to a stop.
That is awesome. That should make people feel a lot more comfortable knowing that this technology is being deployed and it is safe. I know that's something that Fetch Robotics really was important, you know, right from day one. So I want to switch gears a little bit, because this isn't the only technology that, you know, a company may be deploying. And I'm assuming the AMRs, you know, in these workflows, that these are working together with other types of technology that's already available today. And Rick, I'm assuming that Zebra, you know, this is one of the reasons why you all acquired Fetch, that this is a nice complement to other types of initiatives that companies have in terms of mobile computing, RFID, machine vision. Are you finding that to be true?
Absolutely, yes. For example, I was at the robotics show in Boston a couple of weeks ago, and one of our products is called the Roller Top, and it's designed to move a tote onto a conveyor, whereby you didn't have to purchase a conveyor. But the integration that you saw at that show was a huge robot from Plus One Robotics that actually picked up a box and put it in to the tote on the Roller Top, which is kind of neat. So it's a combination of us and Plus Robotics working together and creating a total solution for our customers.
Yes, robots helping robots. Now we're talking.
Exactly.
And if I could add to what Rick said, is that also one of the key advantages of the Zebra AMRs is that any barcode scanner, mobile computer, tablet, wearable device can be used and signal the AMR to do something. So if you want to, you know, for example, from this location, I generally send it to these 20 locations. You can, with a mobile computer, scan, this is where I am and this is where I want you to take it, scanning a barcode.
Wow.
So any accessory product should be able to be integrated with the AMR.
That's huge. I mean, Zebra being the leader and you know, folks already using this technology. And I'm assuming, Rick, this is powered by that Fetch Core software.
It certainly is. The Fetch Core software is really the brain behind everything. What we have actually is a wonderful foundation for people to follow this really easy way to have a drag and drop menu. So it's understandable by a 7-year-old, as I'm told. So a lot of people will have no problem with it. And that's actually in writing. So it's, in other words, it's very easy to follow. These graphical interfaces can actually create the workflow that you want the AMR to do. For example, it can go over to a charging station at a particular time, or it can go over and replenish at a particular time. So everything is drag and drop menu. You can scale your business as well by adding more AMRs to the foundation without having to make any changes in the software whatsoever. And we pride ourselves on that.
It really means also is you don't have to program.
Right.
The AMR, you don't need to be a C coder, Java coder. It's all if this, then that. It uses Blockly. And it allows, this is taught in like middle school at many schools, how to program using Blockly. So it's that level of if this, then that, if this, then that. And it is really straightforward to set up a workflow, modify the workflow, add things to it. So the ability for the system to literally, as we go back to our earlier discussion, deliver the AMR, open the door, roll it off the cart, have it map the facility, which is less than a day, then develop the workflow and identify, here are my these are my 20, 50 locations, identify them, and then let it go. And from what I saw, generally in 2 to 3 days, the system is in full production.
Wow. I really think that's probably a shocking statistic to those people, to people watching. I really think that, you know, that's something that is going to be repeated here at the end of this. I mean, this really is something that is accessible. This isn't something that is overly complicated to deploy.
Absolutely. To build on that as well, to validate that, to what Des said, and clearly for everybody to know, you can go onto YouTube and you can look up Waytech Wire, and you hear Mike Larson, who is the president and CEO, talk about Fetch Robotics, talk about why he chose Fetch Robotics, talk about why he decided to go with us overall. And some of those reasons Des and I both know, up and running in 3 days. He didn't have to add any more real estate to his facility because he leveraged our technology, took out conveyors, for example, which saves space.
Huge.
Yeah. So those are things that you can go on Mike Larson on YouTube, Waytech Wire, check it out. You'll hear his story.
He'll also tell you that it was the easiest IT deployment he's ever had. And because the only thing he needed to do was allow the AMRs to connect to his Wi-Fi network and to allow those messages to go out through the firewall. That was it. There was no local server, physical or virtual, that had to be set up and patched and maintained and set for high availability. And this is a key advantage of lower cost. And where IT in many organizations say, I'll get to it in 2 or 3 years. I'm totally booked today. And what database server I need to set up. Really, the Zebra user has very little need of the IT team to step in. It's one of those things that in some cases, it goes in with virtually, you set up the Wi-Fi, what is that, 5-10 minutes? Then you open up some ports on your firewall. That's it. That's all done. Oh, by the way, if you needed the AMR when it hits, if you have doors that automatically open and close or by button, if they're the right type of doors and controllers, the AMR can send a signal to that door controller telling it at the right time, open the door or shut the door, and no one needs to be there for it. So it can communicate with that type of equipment.
That's so cool. I love that. Well, I think, in general, barcoding, this is one of the reasons why we exist, right? I think a lot of the work is done up front to establish that, the right qualifications are there, the right workflows have been identified. But I think once all those things are true and we know that the Wi-Fi, connectivity is there, at that point is when, this deployment gets very simple.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So maybe let's just summarize, I think, some of those typical use cases, Rick, and Des, that you're seeing out there, kind of run down through them, or even if you want to show them, I think let's just go through those. What are those main examples that people should kind of look at in their organization? I know we talked about dunnage, but there's a few other ones.
Yeah, we did. So line side replenishment is really important. I think I might have the sun in my eyes. I'm not sure if y'all can see me. I'll to the side
We still see you, don't worry.
All right. So I was out in Dallas, Texas last year, and I wanted to physically go to a Fetch Robotics customer. And I was visiting a cell phone refurbishment company, for example. And I walked inside and I saw people that were standing at stations, which I thought, oh, that's pretty neat. And then all of a sudden I heard this beep, beep. And there was an AMR that was going over to the warehouse to let the operator know, load up some SKUs for the cell phone repair person to actually, repair the phone, which is fascinating. And in this facility, it was 300,000 square feet of space. They had 2 Cart Connect 100s with the tall carts to move the material around. And then they had the HMI shelf delivering the product to the person who was repairing the cell phones. And so I asked the person there, tell me, what do you like about these AMRs, these robots? And she said, I love them because I'm able to increase my productivity. I no longer have to go over to the warehouse and get these parts. The AMR brings it to me. So there's a really nice case where our technology can help quite a bit.
That's awesome. I'm assuming that person that's better able to hit his or her goals and kind of keep moving up the ladder. So
I did ask her how many, what is your quota? And she said I believe it was 12 per day, and she was able to up that to 18. So a significant improvement
wow.
in production.
Great. Other, tangible examples you want to throw out there, Des, in terms of use cases?
Sure. Well, actually, Zebra investigated Fetch Robotics before the acquisition. They found a use case in their repair depot centers. So when you send a Zebra product, let's say it's a mobile computer in, because it needs to be serviced for one reason, the keyboard, display, whatever. What happens is, upon inventorying them in, they'll decide how to repair them, but it's not one person that does the entire repair. If it's a display, it could be one person. If it's a keyboard, it's something else. If it's a motherboard, it's somebody else. If it's the barcode scanner, it's somebody else. Trigger, and it could be a number of different people. So what they were doing was that every half hour, this is before the AMRs were deployed, people would have to get up and take the stuff they had already serviced and take it to the next station or the next person. These mobile computers get passed around, and at the very end, someone at the end will seal it so that dust and water doesn't get in it, and then they box it up and ship it back to the customer. But every half hour or so, each station, someone had to get up and move their repaired stuff from their spot to the next, to the next, to the next. Well, with the HMI shelf, which you can schedule it, or there's also a display on top where you can press buttons and tell it where to go. This thing will go through the facility every half hour, and people will take stuff they need to work on off the tray, put it on their desk, take the stuff they've fixed and put it back on the AMR, so it gets shuttled around. So people can stay heads down and focus in on the work they need to do, and not get up every half hour to complain about, again, sports teams or the weather or whatever it may be. They get a lot more work done.
We can still complain though, right? I mean, we get to do it in different times, so we don't have to walk around and do it.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. So although there's many use cases for the AMRs, the real value, or many values of the Fetch Zebra product line, is the number of different configurations for the same Freight 100 base. You can have it pick up and engage and drop off carts throughout your facility. You can have one with a shelf built on it with a display on top where you press buttons. Rick brought up here the roller top, which has got a motorized short conveyor to move things from one spot to the other, and it'll take things off a conveyor and put it back on a conveyor, sort of like a conveyor bridge. There's even an attachment that has a RFID reader called the tag surveyor that can go through your building maybe once an hour or twice a day, three times, 4 times, and it will collect where tags are in your building autonomously, so that if you're really missing stuff, and that's not uncommon in big distribution centers, particularly when you have high employee turnover. In some cases, employees don't put the product where it needs to go. They'll just drop it somewhere. It's somebody else's problem to find out where I left it. With a tag surveyor, which is another built-in apparatus that'll sit on top of the Zebra Fetch 100, it will just do that, collect the data, and you can see where your products are.
That is awesome. So lots of different use cases of a robust portfolio of AMRs through Zebra that works with the rest of the Zebra portfolio. I mean, to me, and my excitement on bots, I mean, it seems like this is a no-brainer. And as we head into next year, 2023, I can't help but think that this might be the year for these AMRs to really hit stride, right? I mean, it just seems like everything is coming together.
I agree entirely. I think what most firms will do, rather than, although we'd love at Barcoding to sell 50 AMRs to one customer, but reality is most firms will start with 1 or 2, and then prove it out, let everyone look at it, get confirmation that this works really well, and then expand the use cases. Again, we don't need much support at all from IT, but we do need a coach. We need someone at the customer site who, again, doesn't need to be a programmer, but somebody that will watch and take requests for changes and modifications. Like, I need to add more pickup and drop off locations on the other side of the building, or I need to change a workflow so it does something slightly different. If we can find a local champion or coach at the distribution center, someone who has a vested interest and who can guide the system through, it really, you get the most value, because that you don't have a static system, which I want to emphasize again. This system can be changed every day of the week to do something slightly different. You can change your mind, and that is one of the huge advantages of the Zebra Fetch AMRs.
That's true, Des. You know, and please know there's an immediate application in warehouses today with every single barcoding customer that's out there, because they have a warehouse operation, a distribution center, and they all have dunnage. They all have this trash, this particular use case that's very popular. So we know that there's lots of opportunities out there, and we always like to recommend with something that's going to work, something that's needed, something that's going to create this excitement within the company. As Des indicated, let's maybe put one in their cafeteria and let them check it out beforehand, but nonetheless, get them familiar with it and put together a use case that has a very nice story and a nice message, and it's going to help promote their employees.
I was with one customer who worked 3 shifts, and they had people, like 3 people on first shift, 3 on second, maybe 1 or 2 on third shift. And all they did all day long, because they had to repackage products from their supplier and put it in their company's box or package. So they created a whole bunch of cardboard dunnage, and they had to move stuff all the time. They were able to look at the problem, look at the solution, and look at a 3 or 4 month ROI. Yeah. 3 or 4 months. Whew. The system paid for itself.
It's so amazing. Well, I think if you're getting excited about this, know that barcoding is here to help. So we are here. We're a Zebra partner with the AMR line. We can be your first point of contact. You can reach out to us at barcoding.com. We'd love to talk to you about your processes and workflows and where these AMRs might really add some tremendous value across the board. So remove some of that wasted productivity time and get people back to jobs that make them feel more productive and more valuable to the organization. And also, you know, just help. I would agree. I think if someone told me you no longer have to move these cardboard boxes from here to there, you know, all day, every day, I'd be pretty excited about it. So yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity, and we are here to help. So barcoding can be that first line. You can talk to somebody like Des. So he is on the team, and he's ready to rock and roll and help you out. So it's a really exciting time for everyone here. So I know we're coming to a close here on our conversation. We've covered so much ground, lots for people to think about, and hopefully lots of excitement around the AMR space. I like to always end though with a kind of a funky question. So the huddles usually end with kind of a not on script question. So what I thought I would ask each of you today, because this is a pet project of mine and something I is near and dear to my heart, which is robot names. What would you name your AMR, your personal AMR, and why? So Rick, I'm going to put you in the hot seat first, because Des looked down and his body language said more time. So Rick, what would you name your personal AMR and why?
I would name my personal AMR Barracuda, if you could fit all those letters on one, on one particular label, because we want to attack, the warehouse operations. We want to help them, move things along quickly, and we want to chop away at those operating costs.
I love it, Barracuda. I like it.
That's a good name, but I would go with Roadrunner, the old cartoon from Warner Brothers. The reason is the Fetch Zebra AMRs move quickly. They're when compared to many of the AMRs or AGVs out there, they are among the fastest moving product, and that faster they can move products from it just saves you more money.
I love it. Well, for me, it would be my little personal Wall-E, because I love them. And if you are a fan of that movie, you'll know how lovable that robot is. So thank you both so much. Thank you, Zebra Technologies, for sponsoring this conversation today. Once again, Des, Rick, thank you. Appreciate your time. And looking forward to working with you more at the end of this year and into next and into the far future. And if you loved what you saw today, definitely hit that subscribe button for Barcoding Inc., our YouTube channel, is always producing great new content like this one. You can contact us on barcoding.com and we'll put you in touch with experts like Des and Rick, and make sure that you're off and running like the Roadrunner and chopping away at all of those challenges that you might be having, like the Barracuda. But yes, we are here to help. So thank you very much, Rick. Thank you, Des, and thank you, Zebra Technologies. Barcoding, we're out. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.